So I apologize that the screen is moving, but I'm talking while I'm walking in the morning. My roommate Zeke suggested that I start videotaping kind of these epiphanies or ideas. This is how I sort out my ideas. I talk to myself, and he said, well, maybe this could be of value to some people out there that are feeling the same thing, and you should actually start recording this stuff. So I hope that this is some value to you if you have the same kind of thoughts that I do, and that if nothing else, it'll give you a kind of a sense of belonging, that you're not alone in how you think and how you feel. Because I know I feel like that a lot in this world, that I'm the freak, but I realize I'm not. So what I want to talk about is hypnosis and the power of our words. And I was watching a YouTube video it was a preacher. He was talking about being hypnotized. And I've experienced hypnotism. I've been around it. I've seen the power of it, and I've learned a little bit more about hypnotism and the power of the subconscious mind. And my understanding of hypnotism is that it kind of taps into your subconscious, the same kind of place you go to when you're meditating or like self-hypnosis, when you're driving in a car and you're hyper aware of what you're doing, but yet you're daydreaming while you're driving and you don't remember where you were. That's like a form of self-hypnosis where you're kind of in a different place in your mind. The higher levels of thinking, the lower levels of motor functioning are at work, and you don't even have to think about it. But anyway, people that don't believe in hypnotism, I would argue that you hypnotize yourself every day by the thoughts and the words you say to yourself. And it's amazing the stories you tell yourself and how this all combines with like many different facets of what I've learned about self-doubt and talking to yourself and all this like self-help stuff like Tony Robbins and things I've read about just all these self-improvement things. They kind of all come together. I try to find the themes in things, whether it's from Christianity or the secular world, or I'm trying to find truth. So it doesn't matter where it's coming from. Truth is true. And I think all truth points back to God. I do believe he's real, and if he is real, that truth will point back to him. And if he's not, it won't. So, hypnotism. I am amazed at how quickly our actions and our beliefs change by who we are around. Like my life, for instance, if I hang out with people that are very inspirational and have a very strong faith in God, suddenly I become very charismatic. If I hang out with people that are kind of, lukewarm with what they believe in, and they're not really that inspired, and they're just kind of like just going through the motions, I kind of start going through the motions. If I hang out with people that are really, really dark and cynical, I become cynical. If I hang out with people that are really kind and silly and playful and just really sweet, I kind of become like that. It brings it out in me. And Tony Robbins said, love your family, choose your peer group. And I couldn't agree more with that. So I look at my life, and I'm looking at how I've been acting and who I am, and I'm looking around at the people I hang out with, and it's like, I love them, but are they the people I want to become and be like? They're not. And it's hard because I'm like, okay, what do I do? Just start. How do I find a new peer group? How do I get out of this? But that's a separate question for another day. But the idea like of self-hypnosis and how powerful that is, of just one little phrase, one thing you say to somebody, one thing somebody says to you can change your whole week, could change your whole year. I don't know if you're like me, but if someone says something really truthful, it gets in the back of my mind, and then it will recirculate later. I'll hear their words in my voice later, just randomly. I dated a girl, and she had a lot of really truthful, deep things to say to me, and it got into my mind and my conscience. And it's been over a year and a half, and I'm still like hearing things she said to me. And it's amazing how that's what people's words can do. And what's interesting is it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. The Bible says that words have the power to bring life or death, and that there's power in our tongues, and that our tongues can be like an instrument of like evil and destruction if we let it. And it boasts. Our tongue like makes a lot of boasts, but our bodies are the ones and our minds are the ones that have to back up what our tongues say. And in a way, like, your tongue can get you in trouble a lot. I know mine has. And you have to learn to control your tongue and to control your mind and control your emotions. But what I'm trying to say is that it's so important, the words you say to yourself and what you listen to, because it will change everything you do, how you look at yourself, how you act, how you talk to other people. And I think that's why, in a way, like, if you take Christianity for example, because that's what I'm thinking about, and that's what I believe in, when you read God's words, it's a form of hypnotism. It's a form of rejuvenation. It's a form of, like, I'm trying to think of not mind control, but it's, you're training your mind to think a certain way. You're training your conscience to feel a certain way, because it's kind of opposite of what the culture kind of teaches you about what's important. And then God says helping others is important. Thinking of others as greater than yourself is important. And always looking for ways to basically lift other people up and see the best in them, and to forgive others and to love others. And basically that's kind of impossible without, in my opinion, it's impossible to do that consistently without receiving the love of God. Because if you don't have love, you can't give love. And if you don't love yourself, you really don't love other people. And people always say, they always say, you gotta love yourself. You just gotta love yourself. And I'm like, okay, I just almost died by being hit by a car. Well, I've tried that. I've tried, like, every day I'm gonna tell myself that I love myself. And it does work to a degree, but I found that what's more effective is when I read God's words and I read the Bible and I choose to believe what it says, I feel this overwhelming sense of love. And I feel like I have all this love to give other people. It's like I'm reading a love letter from God to me, and that it makes me feel that He cares about me, that I matter, I have significance. And so, if you don't read the Bible, I would suggest you give it a look and read it yourself, without someone else telling you what you think it should say. Read it yourself, because it is one of the wisest books I've ever read as far as explaining why people do what they do, and kind of calling you out on, like, your motivation for things, like, really what's in your heart. Like, I never read a book that was so, like, revealing of what is in people's hearts and what they really want and what motivates them. And I can't dispute it. Like, I try to argue with it, but eventually I just realize, oh, it's actually truthful. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts. I know they're random and all over the place, but I think a topic for another day would be, do you love what you do, or do you do what you love? Because I've been trying to test that theory, and ultimately I think I'm coming to the conclusion, like, everyone's different and the situation calls for different things, but I've seen that if I'm working and doing what I really like every day for 8 hours, I really don't know what that feels like, but I would imagine it's kind of like when you're doing activities you really like but you get to do it all day. It's much more fulfilling, and you look forward to waking up and going to work and doing work. And when you're doing something you don't really connect to at all, it's a real big pain when you're just trying to make money and you don't feel like you have a purpose there. But I also see that if you have someone or something to live for, and your job gives you that ability to provide for yourself and other people, you can find fulfillment in your job. All right, well, I think that's enough for today. I'm probably